All right, here we go. I'm on the side labeled C. One of the quizzes is labeled C and one of them is labeled E. We're doing the C side first. All right, so here we go. Number one on the C side. How many ways can I arrange 7 books in a row? 7 factorial. So the answer to number 1 is 7 factorial. I'm going to say it again, and I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing me say it. But 7 things in a row is 7 factorial. I don't care if they're books, people, sheep, basketballs, I don't care what they are. 7 of them in a row is going to be 7 factorial. Okay? Which is, type it in, is that 5040? Some of these I have memorized. You don't need to memorize them, you're going to have a calculator. You just have to have a calculator to know how to type it in. Alright, how many ways can I choose a committee of 6 from a group of 10? So there are 10 people, and I'm going to pick 6 of them. Now I have to decide if it's going to be a P problem or a C problem. So it's 10 P6 or 10 C6. Which do you think it is? C. Why is it a C? Because the order doesn't matter. The people are not getting picked for a specific job. They're just getting picked to be part of the group. Do you see that? So there are 10 people. I am picking 6, and order doesn't matter. Please do not set up this for this problem, because as soon as you do that, you're putting order in. There's first, second, there's no order. So this is not a blank problem. You cannot put blanks. 10, math, prob, NCR 6. I got 210. Did you?
What happens if you switch to 10 to 6? It
won't work. It won't work. Think about it, Ethan. You can't have 6 people and pick 10.
Okay.
The calculator will catch that.
Okay. I just asked you.
Yeah. Nope. Big numbers got to come first. This is how many you have. This is how many you are picking. Get here on time, man. Okay. All right, next. How many outfits are possible if I have 10 shirts and 11 jumpers? What do I do there? How many outfits are possible? 10 shirts, 11 jumpers. This is almost identical to a problem we did last time. Anybody remember how it's done?
10 times 11.
Exactly. 10 times 11. When in doubt, look at your notes, folks. That's where you study. That's where you study. 10 times 11. So that would be 110. In how many ways can I award a pencil, an eraser, and a calculator to a group of 8 students? Now think about that. There's 8 kids, and I'm going to pick 3 of them, right? Does the order that I pick them matter?
No.
Wait a minute. Do you want to get picked for the pencil, or would you rather get picked for the calculator? Order matters, because they are being assigned specific prizes or specific jobs. One's the calculator winner, one's the pencil winner. If everybody was getting a pencil, if I were giving away 3 pencils, then would the order matter? No, you're all getting the same thing. But if you're getting different prizes, order matters. So number 4 is going to be 8P3. There's 8 kids, and I am picking 3, and order matters. So 8, math, Rob, and PR 3. I got 336. The hardest part of these problems is often deciding if it's a P or a C. Anytime you have a group and you are picking a few out, it's going to be a P or a C. Always ask yourself, do I care if I get picked first or last? If you care, if it matters, then it's a P. If you don't care, you just want to get picked, then it's a C. Okay? How many ways can you arrange the letters of I love you? All right, who remembers how we do this? How many letters are there?
8.
Start with 8 factorial. That will be the answer unless you have repeats. Are there any repeats in there? There's 2 O's. So you divide by 2 factorial, 2 O's. Is that the only thing that repeats?
Yep.
All right, so your answer is 8 factorial. So 8, math, probability, and then your factorial button. I got 20,160. Now this quiz had a little bonus on it. Let's see if we can do this. How many committees of 3 boys and 2 girls can be chosen from a class with 6 boys and 10 girls? Okay, who was listening to me just a couple minutes ago when I said, anytime you have a group of some people or whatever, and you're picking a few of them out, it's going to be a P or a C, one or the other. Now, in this case, there's 2 separate things I'm picking. I'm picking girls and I'm picking boys. All right, so let's do girls first. How many girls are there altogether? 10. And I am going to pick how many of them? 2. Now I have to decide, is this a P or is this a C? So think about it. Do you care if you get picked first or second? No. This is a committee. There is no president, vice president. There's no first prize, second prize. It's just, I want to get picked. So that's 10C2. What about the boys? What will that look like? 6C3? Because there's 6 boys and I'm picking 3 of them. All right, now we're going to find out who was paying attention last time. I have to pick girls and boys. So this is a number and this is a number. What am I going to do with those 2 numbers? Multiply them. It's just like shirts and jumpers. If you're doing this and this, you multiply. You multiply. So 10C2, 10 math, prob, C2 times 6 math, prob, C3. The answer is 900. Now, I did it all at once. If it's easier for you to do this and get that number, and then do this and get that number, and then multiply them, that's fine. But your calculator will do it all at once, if you put the times in between. All right, turn it over. Take a couple minutes, huh? Okay, take a couple minutes and see how many of these you can get. I think they're very, very similar. feel like you know any of them? We don't have to go in order. Does anybody feel confident with any of the problems? Matthew?
Number 1 is 8 factorial divided by 2 factorial.
Okay, Matthew says that I miss you is 8 factorial, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, divided by 2 factorial?
Yeah.
Wait,
There's another 2.
aren't there 2 S's and 2 I's?
Oh,
Yeah.
So we need 2 factorials in the bottom. Remember, you do whatever letter repeats factorial. However, I mean, each one is done individually, so I got the S's and the I's. So that will be I got 10,080, but I'll wait for you to check that.
No, I got that.
You got that? All right, good. That's number 1. What?
So you couldn't just put 4 factorial?
Actually, no. You can't put 4 factorial. Absolutely not. No, they do not combine. And you want to have them in parentheses if you're doing them at the same time. All right, that's number 1. Did anybody find another one that you feel like you are comfortable with?
Isn't it 2 just 10 times 2?
What?
Isn't it 2 just 10 times 2?
It's 2 just 10 times 6, you said?
Yeah.
All right, let's see, how many different cakes are possible if there are 6 kinds of cake and 10 kinds of icing? 6 times 10, 60. There are 60. That problem is exactly like Jumper's shirts. Only this time I'm going to the kitchen and I'm picking an icing and I'm picking a cake. Right? 60. Good. So far we're 2 for 2. Anybody else? Feel like you know one? What?
3 is
Josh says 3 is 10C4. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm picking a team. Order doesn't matter. So 10 math, C4. I got 210. Perfect. 10 kids. I'm picking 4 of them, and the order doesn't matter. Wonderful. Okay, honestly, if you miss number 4, I'll probably come unglued. 4 is the easiest one on here. How many ways can I arrange 6 people in a row? 6 factorial. 720 if I remember correctly. Number 5. How many ways can I choose a president and a treasurer from my class of 22? Okay, think about it. There's 22 kids. I'm going to choose 2. It's either P or C. It's P. It has to be P because I am picking them for different jobs. If this said, how many ways can I pick 2 co-presidents? Then it would be a C problem. But since I'm picking them for different jobs, it's a P. I got 462. These are the kinds of questions that are on your quiz tomorrow. It won't be all this. It'll be like half of one of them. Okay? Now, bonus. How many 5-card hands contain 3 clubs and 2 red cards? The point of all this is leading to probability. We're going to do probability, and a lot of probability problems come from card hands. So you need to have some basic familiarity with a deck of cards. If you don't have that familiarity, get familiar. You can get online and research a standard deck of cards. Okay? So what do we know about a deck of cards? It's split into 2 colors, right? Red and black. The black cards are either clubs or spades. The red cards are either hearts or diamonds. How many cards are there altogether? 52. A standard deck is 52 cards. Since there's clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades, those are called suits. There's 4 of them, and they're all the same size. 52 divided by 4 is 13. So there's 13 hearts, 13 diamonds, 13 clubs, and 13 spades. Okay? So this problem says I need to pick 3 clubs. Well, how many clubs are there altogether? 13. And I'm going to choose 3 of them. So now I need to ask myself, the problem says I need 3 clubs. Does the order matter? No. It hardly ever matters in a card problem. So 13C3, there's my clubs. There are 13 clubs in the club pile. I'm picking 3 of them. Now what else do I need? I need 2 reds. Now be careful, how many red cards are there? 26, because there's 13 diamonds and 13 hearts. Half the deck is red, so there's 26, and I'm picking 2. Does the order matter? No. Now, I'm picking clubs and red. So what am I going to do with these 2 answers? And your calculator will do it all at once if you wanted to. 13 math, prob, NCR 3 times 26 math, prob, NCR 2. Oh boy. 92,950. All right, everybody know what's on tap next time we come together. All right, put that aside. You can redo it. You can absolutely redo it if you wish. Now, we've got notes to do. So we're going to do a little 9.2 today. Roxy's excited, I can tell by the look on her face. You've been waiting for it all day. Here it is, 9.2. At first glance, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, Mrs. Ford, this has nothing to do with what we just did. And you're going to be right. But the pieces are going to come together, all right? So we've learned one piece, now we're going to learn another piece, and then eventually we're going to put it all together. Expand x plus y to the 4th. What we mean by expand is x plus y, x plus y, x plus y, x plus y. So we're going to foil, right? It's going to be a giant foil problem. Well, I don't know about you, but I got better things to do with my life than foil that thing 4 times. So I'm going to show you a shortcut. I'm going to show you a way that you're going to be able to do these problems much, much shorter. Okay? So right now, I want pencils down and beady eyes focused on me, because we're going to kind of discover this together. If I did x plus y to the 1st, I know that would just be x plus y. You don't have to write this down. You don't have to memorize this part, okay? I want you just to watch. X plus y squared, I've done that a million times in different problems. So I know when I FOIL that, it's x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Okay, I've done that one a lot. You have too, you probably have that one memorized. Now, x plus y cubed gets a little trickier. I don't do that one as often, but it's x cubed plus 3x squared y plus 3xy squared plus y to the 4th. Now, Mrs. Ford does not have that memorized, but you saw how fast I pumped it out because there's a trick. So now we want to see, this is the next one. We're going one more. This will be the next one in line. We want to see if we can figure out what this is going to be. So kind of look at what's happened so far and make some guesses. Not about, maybe not the whole thing, but maybe you know what a term is somewhere in it. Ethan?
Would it be x4 plus 3x?
X4 definitely,
Yeah.
would everybody agree with that? And what about the other end? Y4, okay, so we're good on that, right? It's gonna start with x to the fourth, end with y to the fourth, okay.
Plus 4x squared y plus 4x y cubed, sorry. No, the x should be a 3 too as well, sorry, that's my fault.
This one's cubed?
Yeah. And then x, right, x and then the y would be cubed that way. That's, right.
Okay, now that's not quite right, but he's on the way. He's on the way. So here's what I want to show you. First of all, I want you to examine the letters and the exponents, the variables and the exponents. Here, it's just 1 and 1, x to the first, that's it. Now, this one was x squared, this was x, this was y squared, and this was y. So it looked, well, let's look at the next one, it's a little more obvious. Look what's happening to the x powers. We started with 3, but then it went down to 2, and then it went down to 1, and then it disappeared. Now what did the y's do? Same thing, but the other way. So y cubed, y squared, y to the first, and then no y at all. So let's look at his exponents first. Forget the numbers for a second. Is he on target with x to the fourth and x cubed?
Yeah.
The next one's gonna be x squared, and the next one plain x, and the last one is gonna be our y to the fourth. It's not even gonna have an x. Now what about the y's? Well, that one's y to the fourth. What's this one gonna be? Y to the third, and this one's gonna be y squared, and then we have our plain y, and then we have no y at all. So do you get how the variables work? Okay, so now it's just the coefficients. Now he made a guess, a good guess, that this was gonna be a 4. Because that was a 3, and that was a 2, and that was a 1, so it just sort of makes sense that that's gonna be a 4, and that's perfect. Did you notice that on the other end, you have the same pattern? See how that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 1, that's a 3. So that's a 1. Would you guess that's a 4 right there?
Yeah.
It's this one in the middle that's gonna be different. So this is where the trick comes in. You don't need a trick to figure out the letters. The letters are easy. You just count down or count up. It's the numbers, the coefficients that are tricky. So I'm going to take the coefficients out and look at them in triangular form. So I have my 1 and my 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, and now I'm trying to figure out what this fourth row is. This is called Pascal's triangle, and I do want you to write this down, the triangle, okay? So it starts with a 1 and a 1 at the top. That's the first row. The second row is 1, 2, 1. And I got that by foiling. The third row is 1, 3, 3, 1. And now I'm figuring out the fourth row. You've already told me it starts and ends with a 1. You've already told me the next inside number here is 4. And this one is 4, and you're exactly right. This one is going to be a 6. This coefficient is a 6. Because to build Pascal's triangle, it's a triangle, you add the 2 above it. So 3 and 3 make 6. 1 and 3 make 4. 3 and 1 make 4, and so on. So tell me what the fifth row looks like. It starts with a 1, ends with a 1, and you're going out. It's making a triangle. So the next number here is going to be 5, and then 10, and 10, and 5 and 1. And I'm going to do one more row, so it's in your notes. What would the sixth row look like? Remember, 1 on each end. And then this This will be a 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, and 1. Now those are the coefficients. Those are these numbers right here. Okay? You've already figured out how to do the variables. So our next problem is x plus 2y to the third. Well, do you have Pascal's triangle written down? Because I'm going to have to erase it. I've got it pretty much memorized. Been using it all these years. All right, what's a little different about this problem? X plus 2y to the third. What's different about it? That guy right there is different. Was that in any of my last work? Okay, he's different. All right, let's stop. What do we know? Well, it's to the third power. So what are the coefficients? It's to the third power. What are the coefficients?
3.
Coefficients.
Oh,
1, 1, 3, 3, 1. This is called expansion, or expanding. It's big. Now in my last problem, the ones I just erased there, every term had an x and a y, because I was expanding x plus y. This time I'm expanding x and 2y. So x and 2y are my variables this time. So in the last example, I had plain x's and plain y's, because that's what was in the problem. This time, I have plain x's and 2 y's. So I took my numbers, 1, 3, 3, 1, from the triangle, third row, and next to each of those, I have put the 2 parts of my binomial. Now I'm going to put the powers on. Well, my first letter is x. So if I'm going to the third power, this power will be a 3. And then what about this one? 2, 1, and 0, so that's going to disappear. Now what about my y's? What's this? 3, 2, 1, 0. So that will disappear. Now, I hope you spread it out enough that you can see separate terms. Put a plus sign in between each grouping. So each x and y grouping, put plus signs in there. And now we're going to simplify. So tell me about this. Well, first of all, if you raise it to the 0 power, it becomes 1. So this is like 1. I don't have to worry about it. So I have 1 times x cubed. Isn't that just going to be x cubed? Now be careful on this one. You've got an x squared and a y, but you have a 3 times a 2. So this is actually going to be 6 x squared y, because this is all multiplied right here. This guy right here is all multiplied together. So you have x squared and y, but you also have 3 times 2. All right, what about here? Well, I have x and y squared, right? Y squared. This one's not going to be 6. What's this one going to be? 12. Because see this 2y? The whole thing's getting squared. So what's 2 squared? 4. So I have 4 times 3, which is 12. And then down here, again, if it's to the 0, it's just 1. So you can ignore it. If it's to the 0 power, it's gone. What is the quantity 2y cubed? Not 6. Not 2y cubed. 8y cubed. 8y cubed. Because 2 cubed is 8. And there's your answer. Well, you thought that was fun. We can do the next one. All right, before I erase this, does anybody have a question about any number or letter? All these problems are done the same way. So if you understand all those numbers and letters, you should be okay. All right, here we go. We're going to do the next one. Your binomial is 2x minus y, and we're raising it to the 5th power. Step 1. If it's the 5th power, then we're going to go to the 5th row of Pascal's triangle. So hopefully you wrote it down. If not, you can build it. You know how to build it by adding the row above. And I think the 5th row is 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. Is that right?
Yeah.
So step 1, go to this row and write down those numbers. Okay? Now, next to each number, you're going to put the 2 parts of your binomial in parentheses. So you have a 2x and a negative y. A 2x and a negative y. A 2x and a negative y. 2x, negative y. 2x, negative y, and 2x, negative y. Now before you start whining and complaining, remember, the alternative is start foiling. Takes forever to foil that, I'm telling you. The numbers get big. This is much easier once you get the pattern down. Okay, so Olivia Barr, what did I do first? What was the first thing I did? Okay, let's review. First thing I did was write down the numbers in the 5th row. Then, next to each of those numbers, I put 2x and negative y, those are the 2 parts of the problem, in parentheses next to each one. Now I'm going to put my powers on. What power is going to go on my x term right here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. As soon as you put that 0 on there, you know that term's going to go away, right? The x part. And then, since I'm down here, I'll put my y powers on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, which means that y thing's going to go away. And then, hopefully you space this out. In between each term, there's a big plus sign. These are separate terms. You have to do each one individually when it comes to simplifying them. Okay? So here we go. Somebody tell me what I got right here in the very beginning. What is that first term going to be? Remember, that's a parentheses. 32. X to the 5th. The y is gone because of the 0 exponent. Everybody see where the 32 came from? 2 to the 5th. It's inside the parentheses, 2 to the 5th. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now, what am I multiplying here? I know I'm going to have an x x fourth and a y. X fourth and a y to the first. But what do I have number-wise? I have a 5, 16, and -1. These are multiplied. So that's a -1 right there. So what do I get when I multiply 5 times 16 times -1? -80. So there's your second term, -80. X to the fourth y. Now I know my letters are going to be x cubed y squared. Would you agree with that? X cubed y squared? So I just need to figure out my coefficient. So I've got a 10. Now what's this?
8.
That's 8. And now this is -1 squared. Well, -1 squared is just 1. So that's another 80, only it's positive this time. All right, my next one is going to be x squared y cubed. X squared y cubed. I have a 10 times a 4 times a, now this is -1 cubed. -1. Remember, if you take it to an odd power, it's going to be negative. If you take it to an even power, it'll be positive. So what's that? -40? The next one is going to be an x and a y to the fourth. And what's its coefficient going to be? We have a 5 times a 2 times a 1. So just 10. And the last one, there's really nothing, isn't that just going to be -y to the 5th? -1y to the 5th? The x has disappeared. I have 1 times -1, so -y to the 5th. Let's review those steps. Every problem's done exactly the same way. First thing you do is go to this row of your triangle and write those numbers down, spacing them out. Then, next to each of those numbers, you put this and this, whatever they are. In this case, there are 2x and a -y, but they could be whatever. Then you put your powers on, and that's always done the same way. Start with that power and count down. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then the other direction, same thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but kind of a built-in check is, if you look at each term, what do the exponents add up to? Well, here they're 5, here they're 5, here they're 5, there they're 5. The exponents should always add up to that. So that might help you keep track too. And then, once you get all that done, then you just look at each term individually and simplify it. Now, the good news is, kids, that we don't always want to do the whole expansion. If you look at number 2A, it says, find the 5th term. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. But if I wanted the 5th term of this, this would be the only term I would need to find. I wouldn't need all the rest of them. I would just need the 5th one in the row. Now, I know what you're thinking, or at least I hope I know what you're thinking. (2x plus y to the 11th). What does that mean? I need to find. Well, how do I start? Pretend you're doing the whole thing. How do you start? you need the 11th row of the triangle, right? You just did it? God bless you. I'm gonna show you a shortcut for that too.
Oh.
The 11th row of Pascal's triangle, think about what we have done, 5 or 6 rows we have done. You could keep going, but the numbers get big and the thing gets huge. Because remember, as you build it, it goes out like this. So I'm gonna have you do a favor for me real quick. I'm gonna go back to a row I have memorized. 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. This is the 5th row. I want you to type a couple things in on your calculator. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 6 rows here, people. All right. So if you're in Roxy's row, I want you to type 5C5. If you're in Josh's row, I want you to type 5C4. Her row, you're doing 5C3. Tatiana's, you're doing 5C2. Ethan's, you're doing 5C1. And Olivia's, you're doing 5C0. So each row is typing in one thing. And I want you to notice something. Roxy, did you guys get 1? Josh, did you guys get 5? Campbell, 10. Tatiana, 10. Ethan, 5. And Olivia, 1.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The numbers in Pascal's triangle are nothing except the combination numbers, the C numbers. So if I'm expanding to the 11th, the first number would be 11C11, just like this was 5C5. The next one will be 11C10, and so on. Don't find them all. We don't want them all. We want the 5th term. So let's count on our fingers. The first term would be 11C11, 11C10, 11C9, 11C8, 11C7 is the one I want. So I'm going to start with whatever 11C7 is. Yeah. Okay? So type that one in. I do need that number. So what is 11C7? 330. Now, if we wrote out the whole row, the 5th number in the list would be 330. Do you understand that? Now, next to every number in the row will be a 2x and a y. In this problem, next to every one of these numbers is a 2x and a y.
Where did you get the 7 and the 11?
Well, I counted. So the first one, Avery, the first one is going to be 11C11. And then C10, 9, 8, 7. The 5th number in the row is 11C7. In the 11th row, it's 11C7. Now, if we wrote out the entire expansion, the coefficient on x would be 11, right? And then it would go down to 10, 9, 8, and so on. Well, I want the 5th term. Isn't that going to be 7? Didn't it already count down to the 5th term? So that's a 7. And what did I tell you about these two powers? They gotta add up to this. So if I know that's a 7, this will be a 4. If you wrote out the whole row, and there would be a bunch of them because it's 11, there'd be a whole bunch going across. This right here would be the 5th term of that whole mess. So now you get to simplify. I know my powers are going to be x to the 7th, y to the 4th. just need my numbers. So what have I got? I've got a 330 times, this is all multiplied, times 2 to the 7th, 128, thank you. So that's gonna be a big coefficient, 330 times 128, 42,240, x to the 7th, y to the 4th. Now again, I'm totally with you. You have absolutely no idea why we're doing this. You will, and you'll think it's cool, I promise. This is gonna help us do problems like this. Suppose you're taking a 10-problem multiple choice test. Each question has 4 options, A, B, C, D. What's the probability that if you randomly guess, you'll pass the quiz? Believe it or not, this is the strategy we're gonna use. We're gonna practice this a little bit more. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm gonna skip B and do C because it's like the one we just did. And then we'll come back and do B. We're gonna do C first. So now we have 2x plus 3y to the 5th. And we wanna find the 3rd term. What?
Can I please go there real fast?
Leave your phone here. Okay. Now, we've actually done 1 to the 5th, so we know it's a big, big, long thing. We don't want the whole long thing, we only want the 3rd term. So the first thing we have to do is figure out which number would be the 3rd one. Now, you actually have the 5th row written down on your paper, so you can just count. The 3rd number, what, is 10? Okay, that's great. You don't need to do anything tricky. But I'll remind you how to do the tricky if you need to. In the 5th row, the numbers are the 5C numbers. The first one is 5C5. The second one is 5C4. The third one is 5C3. So if you type that in on your calculator, you will get 10. But if you already have that row written down, use that. Just count the 3rd number in the row. Next to the 3rd number, next to all the numbers, will be a 2x and a 3y. The powers on the first term, it would be x to the 5th. On the second term, it's x to the 4th. And on the 3rd term, it's x to the 3rd. Count down, 5, 4, 3. If you put a 3 on that one, then you're gonna have to put a 2 on that one because they gotta add up to 5.
Yeah.
We're done, except for simplifying. I know I'm gonna have an x cubed and a y squared, x cubed, y squared. Now what am I multiplying? Well, I've got a 10, and this is 8, and this is 9. So I'm gonna have 720 x cubed, y squared. All right, we're gonna do one more and then we'll be done for the day. All right, the last one says, if I were going to expand x minus y to the 10th, would you agree that somewhere down the line, there's gonna be a lot of them, but somewhere down the line, there's a term with an x to the 4th and a y to the 6th? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yep, because they add up to 10. So there's you know, an x to the fifth, y to the fifth, x to the sixth, y to the fourth, and so on. There are all these terms, but there is one that looks like this. Your job is to put a coefficient on it. Okay? Now, let's remember that in the 10th row, the first coefficient would be 10C10. And then the next one would be 10C9. I'm gonna go ahead and write all this out, but you don't need to, if you have it figured out. I'm doing this with those people that still are staring at me blankly. These would be the numbers in the row. There they are. Those are the numbers. If you needed the whole row, the whole expansion, there they are. Type them in on your calculator and get them. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to do all that extra work. I'm only interested in one term. So remember, when you put the powers on, the x's and the y's, right here, it would be x to the 10th. And then it would be x to the 9th. Are you noticing the correlation here? And then it would be x to the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. Isn't this the coefficient I need? Because that one's going to have the x to the 4th. So my coefficient is 10C4. Next to that, I'll have x to the 4th and negative y to the 6th. That's how I'm going to get x to the 4th, y to the 6th. So what's the number? Well, what's 10C4? 210. What's negative 1 to the 6th power? 1. So I multiply. 210 times 1 is just, and there you go. It says, what's the coefficient? The coefficient is 210. Okay? All right, that's enough for one day. Remember, we have a quiz next time, but it's only over the PC stuff.